Tim, what is your passion within this field of the antiques?
Mostly in the Adirondack material. My big passion would be mosaic twig inlay in the construction of Adirondack material.
Uh, just explain to me what it is.
What they do is they take cut twigs and they pattern them into a almost like a deco, more eye dazzling appearance
Oh.
to give the piece of furniture or even a subject of something small to sit on your table, as in trays, chairs, tables, large chests. The dazzling appearance is almost like a rug, if you would so say, like an Indian rug is.
Oh, I understand. How many years have you been involved in buying and selling or even dealing with this?
Actually, I started collecting it a long time ago without even acknowledging that I was collecting it. I started buying and selling paint decorated furniture. I had a large collection of that, and then along the way I incorporated this because it is such a folk art based type of material.
And explain to me, what does this have to do with the Blue Mountain Lake Museum?
Well, the Blue Mountain Lake Museum is the Adirondack Museum. It's been a museum there for a long time.
Where is that, Tim?
I'm sorry, that's in the Adirondack Mountains of the upper New York State. You can visit there all the time. The museum, I believe, is open 5 days a week. They have some of the rarest and some of the most unusual pieces there that have either been donated or on loan. And you will see some of the rarest artists and some of the greatest pieces that have ever been made there.
What made you, sort of enter this field of the antiques? What made you think, wow, that's interesting?
I just think it was the appearance of it and knowing that it was one-off. It was, when I say one-off, meaning sometimes that's also a basis for the word folk art. And
Excuse the dogs, they're interested as well, but we'll carry on. Sorry, go on.
they were based on one-off, and one-off meaning in folk art, that is actually a term for that is a terminology for folk art in a degree. It is, it's just the rarity that no two things are alike. That's based in folk art and Adirondacks as well. There's no two things that could be actually alike in any way whatsoever.
What is the most famous of all, if you could say, what is the most famous of all furniture based on that?
The biggest company that was ever in business was a company called Old Hickory. They started in 1892 and they became very famous up into the 1920s and 30s. Today they are still in business, and you can visit their factory there in Indiana, and they will take you through a tour. And their furniture is very beautiful. It's a little pricey for the modern things, but it's a lot of people collect the vintage and the antique part of the Old Hickory, and it's very durable and it's very beautiful.
Is there a lot of money in this?
Absolutely.
So if I knew what I was looking for and I'm bought that, it's a sellable product still even in this day and age?
Absolutely. It has been a very hot subject probably for the last 10 years.
So how does this subject fit in within the line of folk art?
Well, again, that's because in the line of folk art, why it goes together with people that collect folk art is because no two pieces can be alike. Regardless if if they do look somewhat alike, there's no way that you could actually get the same effect from the same twig, the same birch bark, the same bark, or the same branch or whatever's used in that subject. So nothing is one of the same. It always is something different.
So it really is one of a kind in every time.
Absolutely.
You've been known in the field to sell miniature antique snowshoes. I'm dying to know more about that. Tell me more.
It's something that I collected for a long time. It was always there was a wall dedicated in my home to miniature snowshoes. A lot of the Canadian Indians used to make miniature snowshoes, and they would actually use them as trading material. But along the way, when the earlier ones had trade beads applied in strings on the face of them, those trade beads were traded for either food, other material, blankets, of that kind of subject. When it got closer and when mass transportation came into play, the companies, or these Indians, would actually sell them along the roadside as roadside souvenirs. You can actually still see some of the artisans do it today, but they're very expensive. I've been known to sell them. I still sell them today. I probably have 40 or 50 sets of them within my inventory, and they are something that grabs everybody's attention because they're so unusual.
Talking about grabbing attention, what's this about carved deer and animal heads?
I actually specialize in something. I buy and sell a lot of Black Forest and African and just folk art carved deer heads, but I also deal in like animal heads that are carved, not actually taxidermy.
Oh, right.
They're actually carved to give the appearance of being taxidermy.
And are they realistic? Would you? Yeah?
In the Black Forest ones, they are. They're very realistic. Even their fur is carved to the point where it looks realistic.
So, and who actually makes them? Is there, I mean, I know it's a silly thing to say, is there a tribe or an absolutely specific area that would make those carved heads?
There's an area in the Swiss Alps that actually carves much of this. And Black Forest region is actually another loose terminology stating for an entire area that actually carved those types of heads.
Looking at the Adirondack line, what are the most simplistic things that are decorated?
A lot of people just decorate with things that they find that are fairly simplistic, like canoe paddles, paint decorated furniture that has twig or birch bark applied to it, camp blankets, which include companies like Beacon, canoes in general. They will hang from a ceiling or actually cut them in half and create shelving units out of them. Some things in this line are not expensive at all, and those are some of the pieces that are very easy, like pack baskets, fishing creels, early fishing poles. There's many things that can be applied to a wall, hung from a ceiling, or even simplistically put on the floor as a rug that fall in this line.
So what you've said there covers a big range of product type. So how would the layman know that he's looking at the real thing as opposed to a mass-produced item that really looks like it should be there?
That can be sometimes the hardest part, and that's, in my opinion, where experts and people that have spent their life in this field can tell the difference. Many times, a lot of the rare items are bought by somebody that knows. I've been commissioned already to go to an auction or go to buy something, make sure it's realistic, and then I bring it back and say, yes, with my authority or with my authentication, I say it's real. And we buy it, and I am paid a fee for that.
Do you ever get it wrong?
Not yet.
In this day and age where we have the electronic media, the internet and things like that, is it possible to actually check that something's real across the internet by looking at it on a camera, or would you really have to be there, touch it, feel it, see it?
In some of the subjects, because that part of that folk art is like a one-off item, many times you'll have to actually be there and hold it within your hand. So many times I've seen things bought from the internet and I knew they were not real.
Where does it originate and where would you expect it to end?
Well, it never will end because there's so many artisans. Some of the best artisans are still in the business today. Unfortunately, once you're either into the antique part or you're into the modern part of it. But it started in the mid-19th century. It became very, very popular at the late part of the 19th century, which would be about 1870, 1880s. Yeah. Like I said, Old Hickory came into play, and they were one of the biggest commercial line producers. They came into play at 1892. They became extremely, extremely famous in 1920s, and they were still very big into the 1930s, 40s. They had a lapse period in the 50s through the 70s, 80s, and they've come back strong again because that line has finally come back to being vogue, so to say. In other words, you would decorate with it in your home again.
So
I will talk about that on my website, about different subjects, different makers, and also the regions which it came from, and I will even discuss points where a lot of things actually were produced in Europe, which most people do not relate to that. They don't realize that a lot of the Adirondack material has been transported from Europe back to America, and I will show you the difference between that with some of my pictures, photographs, and some rare items that I have.
And Tim, if anybody wanted to contact you directly, would you be okay if they emailed you and spoke to you directly on these subjects?
Absolutely. They can reach me by email, and you can also Skype me, and you can just visit my internet blog, our website. And
well, that information is on the screen now. Tim, thank you very much.
You're welcome.